Hey, I'm just here to let you know that we are live here in our studios in New York, getting ready to bring you today's SportStream segments. We've got a good 2-hour runtime with some great advice from system integrators and installers. We will be coming live in about 5 minutes. Stay tuned, join us, take advantage of the Crowdcast platform. If this is your first time tuning into SportStream, poke around. You will see there's an area there for chat. You can even send us questions through there. We are monitoring all of that chat, all of that feedback, and we will be serving polls throughout. So say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We know we had an audience yesterday from all over the country and even a few international guests as well. We're happy to help answer any of your questions, and we hope today's content is going to help you put together your sports production. We will be getting started here in just a few more moments. Hey, this is Jim with SportStream. Hey, Marcus in Arkansas, go Hogs! Thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us today. If you had the opportunity to tune in yesterday, we hope that you were pleased with some of the content and welcome back for day two. If you did not check out the content from yesterday's show, it will all be available right here on demand. If you are registered on our Crowdcast platform, all of these segments that we are talking about from yesterday's show with VizRT, PTZ updates, and KillerView will all be available for you to view. We also know that a lot of our audience wants to go back and look at some of these case studies and workflows and use it to refer back to, maybe even pitch it to your board to get budget approvals and to talk about some of the equipment and production needs. So we will make these segments available. Today we have a great schedule planned for you. One of the things that we love doing in SportStream is reaching out to the system integrators who are out there installing some of these higher-end broadcasts themselves. Yesterday, Gary from Videoguys spoke about some production bundles that are available as an add-to-cart purchase. Something like a Bird Dog Maki Live or a PTZ Optics Action Bundle. You can get those cameras and get streaming for your sports production very quickly and very easily. But if you're setting a multi-camera production in a venue like Reynolds Stadium or a sporting event that is going to go between an indoor arena and an outdoor stadium, you're going to want to reach out to a system integrator who has the training and certification and experience to help answer all of your production needs. We've reached out to our network of nationwide system integrators and got a few of them to join us to talk about some of the interesting projects that they're involved with. We'll be throwing it to just a moment to Brad at 1210 Productions, who is going to talk about Friday Night Lights and some of the great stuff he's been doing with some high schools in the Texas area. We'll also be talking with Austin from Future Grade, who just had a recent install with a WNBA player setting up a podcast studio. One of the exciting new things that we're seeing added into the sports production space. And then we're talking to our friend Jesse at Midtown Video, who is going to talk about some of the NDI, AV over IP installations that he's had, and how video and audio together are equally as important in the sports production world and in sports venues across the country. We will be talking to these system integrators, and then we'll hear more from some of our top vendors, including Panasonic, NETGEAR, the company that makes a lot of these AV over IP switches, and LiveU are giving you that cellular bonding technology to stream your sports broadcast from anywhere to anywhere. So we've got some great segments planned for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Use the Crowdcast platform with the chat window on the side. As questions come up throughout, we will be coming back and forth with you to help answer all of your questions and to complement all of the content that we've put together for you today. So without further ado, let me introduce Brad from 1210 Productions. Hey, this is Jim with SportStream, and in this segment, I wanted to invite one of our system integrators, Brad from 1210 Productions, to talk about some of the recent installs he's been doing in sports production, some of the challenges that they run into all the time, and some of the great things that working with a system integrator can really benefit you in any of your sports production, live streaming, and all the great stuff that we're talking about this week. So without further ado, let me have Brad from 1210 Productions introduce himself and the company. Hey, Brad, how are you?
Thanks for having me again, Jim.
Always a pleasure. Can you tell us a little bit about the 1210 Production Company?
Certainly. 1210 Production Company started over a decade ago, and we focus on specializing in the equipment that makes LED screens work at sports stadiums. So this is predominantly the video cameras, the instant replay, the switchers, the character generators, anything that you need to make a broadcast happen, whether it's on a television, a web stream, or for the LED screen. We provide that equipment, train the high schools, colleges, professional franchises to be able to run the equipment smoothly and easily, and then we'll support them after the fact if they have any questions furthering their production.
So I know a lot of the challenges that you're going to run into is really being able to bring in the fan experience inside of these stadiums, being able to to drive to the display screens, the same thing that the audience at home would be used to watching on their TV, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of it is budget driven because a lot of the teams can't say, oh, this camera brings in the direct revenue for the expense of it, where you kind of have to look at the big picture of the fan experience and see how that relates to it. And then secondarily to it is fans are used to seeing the experience of the Mets, of the Yankees, of the Rangers, and the major franchises across the country. And in a lot of respects, fans can get the same experience at their local high school or college or a venue that's a minor league team. And it's a little bit easier to capture that experience when you're a 5-year-old child who wants to get on the video board at the Phillies game. You're going to battle 45,000 people to have the camera operator select you. If you're at a minor league game, the memory is going to be the same. They're still going to see themselves on the LED screen and be able to tell their parents, their aunts and uncles, their grandparents that they were on the Jumbotron. And if that memory gets told and told and told, and now all of a sudden that experience is being story told by the customer and not necessarily the team itself.
Absolutely. And I think when you talk about the budget considerations, that budget is very different when you are talking about an in venue experience, because that is a major revenue factor of some of these minor league teams, the smaller divisional colleges, and even some of your local high schools or local sports venues. They want to provide that fan experience to the 5-year-old that wants to get on the Jumbotron, because that is a much larger part of the revenue of having the people in the stands than maybe the TV contract is going to be for an ESPN broadcast. So it becomes more and more critical to make the proper investment in those live production tools and the sports production that goes onto the Jumbotron and through the LED displays throughout the venue itself.
The customers really have to take each equipment category in and of itself and determine where you don't want to cut a corner at compared to where you might be able to take a cost savings measure. Video cameras are a great example. We typically provided prosumer level camera, whether it was Panasonic or Sony or JVC, that typically ranges somewhere between $3,000 to $6,000. Now, at the end of the day, there are features that camera has that makes it, call it a $5,000 camera, compared to a camera that NBC or ESPN is going to use that has a $30,000 to $40,000 price tag. Now, you kind of look at, okay, what are you willing to need compared to what isn't as essential to it. A lot of times, shading is one of the things. Detachable lens is another thing that could come in there. But a lot of times, we hear from teams directly. Their first thing is they don't want to spend $50,000 on a camera, and we say, okay, great. Here are the features that you're going to get with your camera, and they say, okay, that's great. We understand it. With a low camera, is going to become a lower knowledge base. That's it. So now you're taking a camera operator that could be paid $50 to $100 a game compared to a camera operator that needs to be paid $500 or $600 a game, and it's an easier camera for them to use. I look something like the VizRT 3Play, right? The 3P line really revolutionized the sports replay market because it allowed 4 camera angles to be recorded, 2 angles to be played back, and at a price point that wasn't over $25,000.
Right. And everything you talk about are some of those considerations that come up in the design process of figuring out where to spend the budget and where to invest in the production. That's something that I would benefit from in working with a system integrator like 1210, where you have the expertise and experience of working with others in the industry. But you guys also offer full installation services, training and support, and you even get involved in some of the event production itself, don't you, Brad?
Yes, we do. The design aspect of it, to me, is really what makes the installation process run smoothly. If we can get involved from the beginning and formulate a question and answer with the customers, we can understand better their production requirements, whether that is a camera, replay, clip playback, intercom, wireless intercom, how many people they expect to have staff the event. Do they want to have any type of a PTZ camera impact? And then ultimately, where is the production going to be used for? Is it just in stadium venue? Are we now seeing a YouTube or a Facebook stream? Is it going to go to ESPN Plus? So the potential to get over the cable system, they can really dictate different requirements for what is needed. The one of the hardest things to do is to try to install somebody else's design, and then you get halfway through and you realize the design's not going to work, or it's going to work for a year or two, and then as soon as the team wants to add in another camera or add in a wireless system, that it becomes more difficult, and then you're kind of reinventing the wheel at that point. And we really strive to be able to give our clients the room to grow, so that if you want to add a camera, you don't have to buy a new switcher and a new replay system to go with it. That we're going to give you the backbone to be able to expand your production, because the more knowledge that you have and the more games that you do, the more creative you can be. And that's kind of where the juices get flowing for adding new equipment.
Absolutely. And when we talk about those juices flowing, this is where I really like to dive in to some of the specific experiences and applications that you've had. I always ask our system integrators to talk about a couple of projects that you've had a hand in recently that you're really proud of, that you want to share some of the details, because I think that experience is what helps the audience most identify where they fit into the equation, where they can benefit from what others are doing, and how they can invest properly. Can you tell us a little bit about your recent install at Galena Park?
Sure. We were asked to renovate the production room for Galena Park Independent School District. They're a suburb of Houston. And as everybody is aware, because of the Friday Night Lights TV show, that Texas high school football is a entity in and of itself. And Galena Park has had great success over the years with the new tech TriCaster platform. They've had the TriCaster line in their production room for over a decade now, and it was an easy upgrade for us to switch them over to the latest TC1 and 3P1, and the staff, it was as if they've run that equipment for the past decade, even though it was all new computers and all new hardware. And what we did for them to kind of help build them for the future is that the current model of the TriCaster has 4 SDI inputs. They only have 3 cameras right now, of which they are using wireless and on the tripod. And we've given them 4 additional inputs via NDI converters so that they could expand as their production grows. So if they want to add in 1 camera, it's going to be, okay, we only have to buy the camera. The rest of the infrastructure is there and already in place for them.
So not only did you meet their current needs, but you really gave them that path to future upgradability, giving them the flexibility. And I think that's what happens a lot of times in sports productions. The production crew will say, this is what we need today. We may be limited by budget, or really just this is the project that is on the table. But now, once you start using it, that's where all of these unique scenarios start popping up. Hey, Brad, can you give us some more cameras? How do we get the additional resource? How do we do this? And that's where installing a system like this can really help lead towards that, right?
Absolutely. A lot of the times it isn't even the intended use of the system. Maybe it's a graduation or a homecoming ceremony,
Yep,
and somebody wants to add in a laptop or play a different video or a PowerPoint. And those things all we hope to be able to say yes when we take the phone call and say, yes, our control room can do it.
that's awesome. And tell us a little bit about this Goose Creek project.
Goose Creek is about a half hour down the road from Galena Park, also in the suburbs of Houston, and a very similar setup where it was, I don't want to say a cookie cutter room. They each have their own distinctions, but the camera system was the same, the TriCaster was the same, and the three play was the same. Now, Goose Creek sent their production live for the first week of the football season. Galena Park will open this week as well. So they each had their own different priorities as to what was going to make the production themselves. One of the things that Goose Creek wanted to focus on was a strong wireless system. So they have two top of the line wireless kits that are similar to what the Mets have and the Yankees have, and we can build on that reliability of knowing that they have the ability to get anywhere within their stadium to go with it. But at the end of the day, uh, all of these students got behind the cameras for the second time Friday night. They did one walkthrough a week prior, and then we provided our staff to be there for the first game to the public, so that as the town saw their new video board come to life, that we were there to help troubleshoot any issues that had come up, and then answer the questions of the staff as well as any of the student workers to make sure the production went as smoothly as it could.
And I think that's one of the great things that I love seeing in these photos too, is when you take a sports production in a school like these Texas high schools, and you create the equipment that the students can put their hands on and use themselves. Not only are you creating the fan experience in getting that content driven to the displays, but you're creating a student education where they are using the same equipment that the Mets and the Yankees and all these real broadcasters are using, getting that future build for what they want to do, right?
Video production has changed so greatly in terms of assets that the equipment can provide. I mean, in a lot of ways, video content can be made on cell phone today. So, I mean, when I started in this industry 20 years ago, it was a 50-pound camera, and you really had to have a strong knowledge base as to how to run it. Now, the sports production side is something that I think the best way to gain the skills is to just have experience, and trying to find a platform that allows you to fail to learn your skills. And if you kind of look at how you progress through a production team, nobody starts as the producer right away. They're typically a cable puller, then maybe a camera operator, maybe they do replay or graphics, TD, and then you eventually work your way throughout the uh, tiered system to become the top producers. The same way you don't get to ESPN at day one. If you really want to advance through the industry, you have to have a strong network of connections as well as to be able to put your time in. There's a reason why we have over 100 media markets in the country. Some are big, some are small. A lot of times you need to start in Alaska or in Iowa or one of the smaller markets to kind of cut your teeth on the equipment. And a lot of ways, a lot of these students in Texas are getting a jump start on the. I didn't get my hands on camera until I went to college. A lot of these Texas students in the K-12 system are getting their hands on equipment by fourth or fifth grade. They're understanding what goes into a production in high school, and they're already running the TriCaster and replay for their sports stadiums, and then they're so far ahead of some of the other students by the time they get to a mass comm program.
It's absolutely true. You know, Brad, thank you so much for sharing those stories with some of your recent installs. And of course, by introducing 1210 Production Company to our sports stream audience. One of the biggest questions we get asked is when our audience is starting to put together their project and address their production needs, when is the right time to put a call into someone like 1210 Production Company? And what are some of the questions that you're going to help walk them through in this process?
We see a lot of questions come very, very early on. And I think one of the most misguided things is trying to get a company like 12 involved too late in the process. And I say that I think the right time to reach out for a design is as soon as the school has a vision. And I think that there's always the champagne taste on a beer analogy of trying to get there, but to have a realistic budget to execute what you need can really kind of say, okay, if you need a $250,000 control room, that's one thing. We can design a control room based on that $250,000 to give you 3 or 4 cameras, the switcher, everything that you're asking for. But there may be an interest or a need to get to a $800,000 or $1.5 million control room, and just making sure we're getting the right pieces. If a customer comes to us and says that they want all Ross equipment, we're going to tell them, okay, you need more than $100,000. But depending on what they want to spend and what they need the production to be, we can easily work within a budget.
That's great to hear. Let's pull up the contact information for 1210 Production Company. Brad, thank you so much for joining us on SportStream.tv, SportStream.us. You can go there and register for this content. This video will be available, of course, on demand, and we have productions available all week long. If you have any interest in sports production and streaming, contact us today. We can connect you with Brad and his team at 1210 Production Company. Thank you so much and stay tuned.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, Richard Evans from VizRT here, and now through September 30th, our partners at Broadfield are offering TriCasters and control panel bundles for a once-in-a-lifetime deal. Broadcast quality tools in one powerful system. From podcast to broadcast, the only limitation is your imagination, so contact your local Broadfield representative to learn more.
Hey, this is Jim with SportStream. Thank you for joining us for our latest segment where we have Future Grade, one of our system integrators that does quite a lot in the sports production space, joining us to talk about some of the exciting stuff he's doing in sports studios, mobile studios, and even podcasting, an extension that we're seeing a lot more of in the sports production space. Austin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. As always a pleasure, always a blast to talk to you guys.
It's always a blast to hear about some of the cool stuff that Future Grade is doing. Why don't we start by taking a moment to have you introduce yourself, Future Grade, and the cool stuff that you're doing in the sports production space?
Yeah, absolutely. So Future Grade is known for building cutting edge podcast, broadcast, content studios, basically everything you can use to capture and go straight to publishing for all sorts of different clients. We've done a ton of work in the sports field, most notably, of course, working with Pat McAfee, Jim Rome, some of these guys that we'll cover, I'm sure, later in the deck. But yeah, a heavy focus on automating the studio control process so that it becomes much easier for someone who's not as tech savvy to get behind there and be able to tell their story and not have to worry too much about all the tech. So that's kind of our focus now. And yeah, again, super excited to be here and talk sports.
And I'm really excited to talk to you because we talk a lot about sports production being the in venue experience and actually broadcasting the game on the field. But sports production extends well beyond that with the studio setups that happen hours before the game in pre show content, talk shows throughout the week, podcast studios that are giving vehicles for some of the athletes to talk about what they're doing week in and week out, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think now, depending on how your YouTube algorithm's working for you, you can find an incredible amount of great shows from former athletes that you used to love. And these are guys that, had a huge following on Instagram, or maybe they're retired now and they need to, they have a lot to say and they have a lot of, expert input. And the only thing that separates them from that is this tech, right? And how to bring themselves on air and start their own thing and ultimately monetize this incredible fan base they already have.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. One of the experiences that you had was working with ESPN in actually putting together the game day sprinter van that they're using for some of these mobile productions, right?
Yeah, exactly. This one was super cool because, of course, it's a challenge, and we love a challenge. Um, but but the fact that College Game Day travels around the country every week, so this Sprinter van, which is a three-camera Sprinter van, outfitted with Panasonic PTZs, the whole works. I mean, it literally is a mini production studio. It can roll up to any campus, any field, across the US each weekend, and they can bring in guys like Tim Tebow or whoever they want at each destination, and that way they get a rich, variety of people they can talk to. So it definitely is one of our favorite builds, and again, it gets a lot of attention too, I think, just because of how it looks on the inside. And again, yeah, challenge, but a fun one.
Absolutely. And I don't want to give away all of the secret recipes, but I know our audience is super excited to hear about some of the equipment specifically that goes into a production van like this. So thank you for providing some of that information. Let's run through some of the products on that list.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we pretty much in all of our studios use NETGEAR. I mean,
Okay.
all of the PoE managed switches, it's become a part of our recipe in every rack. We also had the UE 100s in this one. Typically, we'd use the UE 150 is probably our fallback, but in this smaller space, we didn't need something quite as heavy, quite as robust. So the UE 100s worked great. Um, Atomos, I mean, again, that's just something we always use because the bang for the buck is just incredible. And we can run multiple cameras in there. We can capture multiple cameras to a single SSD card. I mean, and yeah, their functionality just continues to grow with what you can do with that. And of course, yeah, as SanDisk, same thing. I mean, if there's any ATEM or any live mixing machine we're using that allows us to USB in with an SSD, it's typically SanDisk because it just works for us.
That's great. And one of the things you mentioned there is Panasonic with their Pro PTZ camera lineup. They really have a model available at almost every step along the way. So whatever the production needs are, Panasonic does offer a pretty good solution when you are taking into account some of the other considerations like the image sensor that you need, the space available for it, optical zoom, all of these different things can really walk you through that entire lineup. So I know
100%.
that Future Grade is known for the system integration and building the stuff not only in the Sprinter van that we talked about, but also in some of these pre-show event studios where the talk shows are actually putting a lot of content out. You mentioned at the opening that you guys were very involved with the Pat McAfee show, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We built out the Thunderdome studio for Pat. That was a couple years ago, but of course we continue to support and help them through any changes. 25 4K, UE 150s. Excuse me. Yeah, that was wild, right? I mean, having that many Panasonic cameras, and again, like I think for us, we even use Panasonic products and Lumix products in most of our studios and our smaller fly packs because of tether.
Yep.
Being able to access the cameras over the network through the NETGEAR PoE++ switches and having full control over that. It's just that is so essential to what we do for simplifying the workflow that there's no reason for us to use anything else, and there's just nothing else out there yet for us to even look at. But yeah, back to Pat. I mean, a giant studio, literally going from he was in his old studio. We built it for about 3 months, 4 months, and then no breaks in between. They came right from the old studio right into the new one and went live the next day. So pretty intense, and everything worked. So that's what we're happy about in those scenarios.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things that everyone sits back and, hopes and prays and tests again. And you want to make sure that everything is up to speed by the time he gets in there. And then tell us a little bit about the Jim Rome studio that you were involved in.
Yeah, always been a fan of Jim since I was a kid. Like what a treat to work with that guy, and how cool is he? I mean, just so nice, so cool to the crew. Exactly, what you see is what you get. And that studio is another, multi-camera, with actual robotic dollies. It's a real deal studio. And yeah, basically helped bring it onto X as their flagship programming for sports. They launched with Jim, and then also he's on CBS Radio simulcasting. So that was an interesting tie-in between working out the different segments of, okay, here's our radio commercial, now here's our let's keep our regular programming live on X. So we have some interesting tech built in there to manage those different breaks, and how to fall back in time on some of the the line cut itself. So yeah, again, just a really cool studio and a great guy to work with.
And I would imagine with Jim's pedigree as a true broadcaster with sports broadcasting for years and years and years, building a studio for him on a new platform like X had to have certain challenges where you were bridging the traditional broadcast environment that he's used to with some of that new social media broadcasting that the audience is used to viewing on X, right?
Yeah, such a great point, actually. Yeah, a lot of the way that all the audio is configured and routed is very much meant for traditional radio, satellite radio. So bringing that into, our ecosystem was a challenge, and almost to the point where working with some of the engineers that set up his original radio studio, we kind of were speaking different languages there a bit. So yeah, there was some learning on both our behalfs. Obviously, they're just signals. We're routing signals at the end of the day, but different encoding, different decoding. That I think that's one of the reasons we just always rely on the Teradek Prism. It's
Right.
it's just such a robust way to whether we need to go SRT or just traditional RTMP. Like that's in every one of our studios as well, especially for the remote management we can do with it. It's like the Rolls Royce of encoders, I feel like, for this this type of programming, and now it's in every one of our studios as well. Yeah.
And no, I'm sure. And I think that's a perfect segue into what is one of the newest categories in the sports production space, and that is the podcasting and the podcast studios. What you've done for Jim Rome in getting him on a social media platform like X is really the extension of what athletes, talk show hosts, and just anyone who even has an interest in sports production is doing on some of these podcast studios as well, right?
Totally. Yeah. And to that point, we're starting to see a lot more of this, but in a situation where with Show Me Something with Sophie and West, they are two traveling professionals, one of which is playing full time for a WNBA team. So, how do we bring that level of professionalism and production value that we, typically have in a studio? And that's to build a portable, all in one traveling studio, which we call a studio node. And we call it the studio node because no matter wherever it goes, it's online and we can manage it remotely so that if she's in a different city and needs to, record an episode of this podcast, which has been very successful, by the way, she can just open up this, Pelican case all in one uh, studio. Essentially, we can remote in, we can pull focus, we can manage her audio, make sure everything looks good, and then she's off to the races. And then her and West do their podcast, and so far, I guess it's been pretty spicy. They're telling me she keeps getting fined by the she keeps getting fined by the WNBA, which I think the viewers love to see. So that's fun. But yeah, it's such a great proof of concept for us, and especially again Panasonic, Lumix tether. That's how we, remotely manage these cameras and ensure that she looks good, that he looks good. And then LiveU as well. We have these built into that units as well, so that if we need to, if we don't have local internet, we can cellular bond and still make sure, we have full connectivity. So they could set up in the middle of a cornfield and be good to go and still pull this show off. So I think we'll be, seeing a lot more of these tools out there with these athletes that have busy schedules and are traveling around, but need that level of professionalism for their content.
And that's what I want to ask you about. If she's a professional WNBA player and a professional podcaster that, whether she chose to be or not, that's kind of exactly what she is right now. She's setting up this production equipment herself with West on the road, and you're accessing it and helping with that production side of it throughout all of this, right?
Yeah, which is so like that's basically proves our concept.
Okay.
The studio node has been successful, but for in this new scenario with this show, they travel so much. The fact that she's able to pop it open and do the few steps of setup required is very encouraging that this can work. She also is extremely smart, to be honest. Like it's I don't want to take anything away from her on that front. She's very Sophie is very tech savvy as well and figures things out. But we do try to make it as simple as possible. Here are the steps, and now, to be able to have a BS1H, or which is now I believe a UB50, or yeah, they changed the name on that one Panasonic wise, but to have
Yep.
that on the road, now you're bringing your studio on the road. So now
Right.
we're maintaining the quality we want. And then, yeah, of course, being able to remote in is the kicker, because there are going to be a few things here or there, white balance, focus, that we do still help with, and it takes a few minutes. So it's really great.
It really is great because it's really enabling her to be able to get the content out there and is elevating her beyond the WNBA sport, establishing the connection directly with the fans. And I think that's why we're seeing more and more athletes go to these podcast platforms, whether it's just as an occasional guest on the show or people like Sophie and West putting together shows of their own to kind of get that constant communications and reach out to their audience. And it's great, I think, that Future Grade helps provide the service that gets them up and running through there. Future Grade is involved in a lot of different aspects of these productions, everything from the Sprinter van for the mobile production to the studios like we talked about with Pat McAfee and Jim Rome, and of course these podcast studios that we just talked about as well. Tell us a little bit more about where you fit into the equation and what you offer to people that are looking to get into sports production.
Yeah, so at this point, because a lot of our new clients, they aren't as familiar with you know every step it takes to get your own studio, channel, publishing, even marketing, set up. So we really act as a consultant from the beginning to help people with the unknowns. So it goes beyond technical. We have an awesome project management team and dedicated producers that help with every product that are there 24/7 for our clients, and that helps them solve a lot of the questions of where do I need to focus on, what type of, should we be shooting in 9 by 16, 16 by 9, are we publishing to Instagram or YouTube or both? There's a lot of these questions, including managing media. How should we manage our media? Do we dump cards or do we capture straight to a cloud server? So this is something that we help them help them with initially so that the vision becomes clear. And then for us, the technical part is pretty easy at this point. So I think that's something, as an advantage that we do offer is really, you know, a lot of these clients aren't coming from a broadcast world where they've spent time in a studio, or spent time, perfecting these workflows. So we're there as, someone who provides education as well as the end solutions of, the technical integration. And now we also do a lot of fabrication and actual development and building out of these sets so that they look cool and they represent their brand and their vision. So that's something new we're doing a lot, and we actually have a new sports studio coming out here very soon that we've been building this summer. So look forward for everybody to see that as well.
You're going to have to find some more stuff to do in all of your free time.
Right, right. I appreciate it, man.
One of the things you mentioned that has been a recurring theme in a lot of the different segments we talked about this week is how sports production is using the technology as a tool for the message itself, whether it's the game on the field, the talk show, the pregame, the postgame, the relationship with the fans. Those are all things that the technology is just really allowing us to put out into the world. Content and the story is still the king, and athletes know that they are part of that story. I'd say all the time that sports is the ultimate reality TV show. You tune in to every single game, every single week, and you never quite know which way it's going to go, how it's going to end, or what kind of drama is going to pop up. And when you can build a studio like the ones Future Grade is building to help share that content and share that message, it's going to be received that much better because it's going to look great also. So, Austin, thank you to you and your team for all the great stuff you're doing.
Hey, well, thanks so much to Broadfield for providing the best gear and being the easiest to work with. And sometimes we have last minute requests and we, are looking for this or that. And you guys always accommodate, and I can't thank you enough. So thanks for having me, and thanks for all the great work you guys do over there.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us for this segment. Stay tuned for more from SportStream.
Experience the future of video production with PTZ Optics. Enjoy fluid camera robotics, unparalleled connectivity options, free tools, and firmware updates, all backed by award-winning US-based support and robust warranties, perfect for any production. PTZ Optics cameras feature advanced robotics and high-quality optics, including broadcast standard lenses and up to 30x zoom with rapid autofocus.
Hey, this is Jim with SportStream.us. In this segment, we are being joined by Jesse Miller from Midtown Video, talking about sports production and the opportunity of using those sports production systems to kind of land and expand and to grow opportunities to different production arenas throughout several different workflows. We're going to talk about video production in sports, audio needs and audio production, in-venue experiences, and just everything that happens everywhere along the way. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today.
Really great to be here. Thanks for having me, Jim.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Let's start by taking a moment to introduce yourself and Midtown Video to our SportStream audience.
Sure. Midtown Video is an audiovisual boutique integrator out of Miami, Florida. This is our 41st year in business. I have the honor of being second generation management. We have a mission to deliver systems our clients can use with pride and confidence. So in addition to sports broadcasting systems, we're delivering television and streaming networks, video conferencing systems, sound systems, video walls, that sort of stuff.
That's excellent. And I know you're working a lot with different schools, organizations, corporate AV. I mean, you guys really put your hands in a little bit of everything down there in Miami. And actually, the set that I have pulled in through the miracle of movie magic is your brand new showcase conference room there in Miami, huh?
Thank you for mentioning that. It looks like you're in it. We call that the conference room of the universe.
Awesome.
You can see our 108-inch video wall in the backdrop there. That's because we've got to compete with the beautiful sun streaming in through the windows behind you.
It's great. I love that we were able to set that up. And I love that you guys have taken the opportunity to turn your own corporate space into a perfect example and an exhibit of some of the services that Midtown Video can offer, not only in the sports production space, but in all these other different arenas as well. So thank you for doing that for anyone that's interested in this stuff.
You know, Midtown is famous for using the gear that we promote. So we deliver TriCasters to our clients. We use TriCaster on all of our streaming promotions. You know, if we're going to be installing video walls in our clients' conference rooms, now we've got a conference room with the video wall there to show them why we're making those kinds of decisions. So I appreciate you giving me a second to highlight this. It's another instance where Midtown Video is using the gear that we're promoting. We're drinking our own Kool-Aid, you know what I mean?
So does that mean that you're getting ready to set up a 20,000 seat venue to talk about some of the sports production?
It's a great question. We're not there yet, but if we were, we would certainly be using the Panasonic studio cameras and, you know, the badass KRA sound systems the Danley sound systems that we like to implement in those stadiums. Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about some of those different installs because that is what the sports production audience is tuning in to hear about. You recently had the opportunity to work with some different projects at the University of Miami, one of which is this brand new rowing gym, right?
Yeah. So the rowing gym is one of the most recent training facilities that we put together. We were actually honored to outfit the University of Miami Hurricanes locker room with a booming Danley sound system, and we've done their weight room as well. I just want to share that across the board, all their athletic facilities, including their rowing team, they need sound reinforcement. This was a beautiful church that the property was purchased by the University of Miami in Coral Gables, and they came to us with this challenge like, hey, we're gonna convert this to the weight room, to the training facility for our rowing gym. Can you repurpose some of our gear and put a sound system in here? So we did. You know, we love selling new gear. Sometimes our clients, it's not the football team, it's the rowing team. So they don't have the same kind of budget. So they said, sure, we've got some of this gear. Can you implement it? Our audio engineer had a special challenge because look at those vaulted ceilings, right? So we put our heads together, came up with a way to reuse some of their gear, add a little bit of subwoofers and amplifiers to go with it, and give their crew members a way to motivate when they're cranking out the extra reps on those rowing machines.
And I've had the opportunity to visit the University of Miami, and it is a gorgeous campus that is state of the art in almost every building, in every discipline, but surrounded by this rich history throughout the local area. So to know that they're taking some of these historical places like a converted church and turning it into a state-of-the-art training facility, I'm sure you had a bunch of unique challenges that you had to address through this process.
Definitely. The city of Coral Gables is very strict in their permitting procedures and stuff like this. Yeah. So, but you know, you come to expect that.
Sure.
Audiovisual integration is a construction trade, you know, so we got to pull permits and talk to the guys downtown. We've got to it's not just speakers. The speakers have to be integrated beautifully into these existing structures. So we're working with their designers and, making things beautiful, not just sounding totally awesome.
And I think that's one of the benefits you get when you work with a system integrator like Midtown Video is you have the experience of this project and other projects where you know what kind of code issues you're going to run into with the local jurisdictions, what kind of concerns you're going to make in converting older historical spaces to these state-of-the-art facilities. And every step along the way, you're working together with all of these different teams to make sure that project hits the accomplished goal with the budget that everyone set out in mind. And that all
Something
gets
really
yeah, go ahead.
something really fun and creative that we got to do for their football team was this recruiting project. They got this round room, at the end of a 60-foot long hallway. We've got some cool videos up about this, but in order to bring the high school kids in and give them an experience they'll never forget, we outfitted that rotunda with like 10 projectors in the ceiling and a fog screen at the end of the hallway with a rear projector going in. So these kids walk through this like mist with highlights being projected through the doorway into this 360-degree projection mapped, rotunda with animated uniform changes on a 7-foot tall football player statue, and in the entire 22-foot room they've got highlights playing and hype videos playing, so that when the kids walk in, their jaws drop and they're treated to a little bit of an experience of what it might be like to play for the Hurricanes football team. It's not really sports broadcasting, but this sports they're really pumping support behind technology, and they're using it to generate output. I mean, the recruiting classes of University of Miami have been better and better since we put that rotunda in there. I don't know I can't claim direct causality, but certainly there's a correlation. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because that is one of the recurring points that we've made throughout this week is that there are a lot of sports production adjacent opportunities where it is the recruiting, it is the training rooms, like you showed with the rowing gym. It is a lot more than just broadcasting the game from the venue itself, although that is one of the key elements and exactly what we're looking at here with the ESPN ACCN control room from the University of Miami, right?
This was a big deal when the ESPN launched all of the separate conference networks. The University of Miami had to convert from just broadcasting on the internet to linear television broadcast. Now that was a major investment. Something funny about the Hurricanes is that although basketball, tennis, soccer, volleyball, swimming, all of those sports are on campus, famously the Hurricane football team plays at Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins are. So while the UM is competing with all these other ACC schools, all those schools have their football stadiums on campus. So they're getting these wild budgets to convert their broadcast system. UM, because football was specifically not a part of their ACC network broadcasting investment, they were given a different level of budget than, say, the guys at Clemson or what have you. So
Sure.
we had to take that budget that didn't take into account football broadcasting and convert their internet distribution systems with television linear broadcasting network. And what you see here in the photo is the result of that. I mean, a massive video wall on the for multi-view. You've got different bays. The graphics bay is on the far wall. The engineering and camera shading bay is in the center there. You see they've got about 13 different cameras for shading. And on the near wall on the right side here is where their 2 replay operators sit. So they are able to pump out, I think, 8 channels of replay between 12 camera views, and plenty of room on that long wall for the TD all the way on the left, their producers, their directors, and all of that. All of these stations, this is in an administrative building. This is on the 2nd floor of Hecht Athletic Center, like where the coaches' offices are. But it's responsible for broadcasting from venues all over the campus. So they've got fiber from the control room to the soccer field, where they also have Olympic sports, to the baseball stadium, to their basketball stadium, where they've also got volleyball and tennis. They've got dark fiber connecting the control room to every single one of these venues where they've got Panasonic studio cameras. So this is we'll talk about NDI and network distribution, I think, coming up. But in this situation, this is essentially triax over fiber SMPTE fiber, extended over dark fiber. And this is first-rate production. Obviously we're broadcasting these games on television on the ACC network. This project was phenomenal. On the other hand, where the cameras are point to point over fiber, all of that intercom is actually using Dante over the network. So while some of their fiber strands are being used to connect cameras, 1 through 8 or whatever, there's always a pair of fiber strands supporting a network connection so that the venue crew members can be connected to the control room crew members over Dante, over their IT network.
And I think that's one of the things we're seeing a lot more of in these integration projects is the combination between your traditional baseband and fiber connections to AV over IP with audio in the Dante world, video in NDI, and a lot of that stuff is now starting to be mixed and matched in installations, giving you greater opportunity for growth, greater opportunities of setting up remote production systems, and even getting more and more production capabilities with new camera sources, new control options, remote operators, and access to different sports in different parts of these campuses.
Yeah, their announcers are actually remote. So some of them are dialing in over, I think, over Unity cloud intercom system. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And that's one of the biggest things we're seeing in the remote space is you can really take any aspect of that production and set them up where they are going to be the most successful to join in for that broadcast.
It would be nice and clean if every solution was like either point to point or network distribution.
Right.
If every solution was going to be either on-prem or remote, but every situation turns out to be a little bit of a hybrid.
Little bit different. And we talked a lot about the different production environments and all these great installs and stuff you're doing. Sometimes it's a little bit simpler than that, right?
That's right. That's right. Here's a great example at FIU's Ocean Bank Arena. For years and years, they're using an existing audio system where the racks are all up on the third floor rack room. They got their speakers distributed throughout the space and a pair of wireless handheld microphones. Well, after 10 or 11 years or so, one of those channels is going to go bad. So FIU called us out and they're like, hey, can you fix this wireless microphone? So we check it out and it's like, the frequencies are in the 500 megahertz range. So the manufacturer won't even repair this microphone because those frequencies are illegal. So I had to come back and say, look, I can't fix this one channel, right? You got a dual channel receiver in the rack. You've got some paddle antennas, directional antennas to make sure that there's coverage on the field of your wireless microphones. The good news is those paddle antennas, it's a wide enough spectrum that I can put in some 400 or 600 megahertz wireless microphones that are frequency legal. So I can't repair the one channel, but let's do this. Let's replace your dual channel receiver, put a new dual channel receiver in there. I don't need to change the amps. I don't need to program the DSP. It's just XLR out, channels 1 and 2 to the DSP. Don't need to do anything there. The paddle antennas are already good. The RF cables are already ran. It was like just a straight swap. Take out the dual channel illegal frequency receiver, put in a new dual channel receiver, and have our technicians just do the auto scan to find the best legal frequencies between the transmitter and receiver, and they're back up and running. It was a simple situation. We didn't have to build a whole studio around it, and it worked for the team, so they're happy now, which is great.
Jesse, what I love about this illustration is one of the biggest questions we get asked is, at what point do I call Midtown Video? When is the right time to bring in a system integrator? And what this illustrates is that any time you need to rely on the experience, the creativity that can only come from having met these challenges over and over again, that's when you make the phone call, because the resources that you have from your years of knowledge just get you to the finish line that much faster, doesn't it?
I appreciate that. Yeah. If the question is when's the right time to call Midtown Video, the answer is always right now. If you feel yourself reaching for an online retailer because you wanted to buy a wireless microphone, give us a call instead and make sure it's the exact right one that's going to get you exactly what you need. Like we measure our success in our clients' output, right? You know, your
Yep.
football team's going to score more touchdowns when we can provide your technology.
I love that because you're recruiting the better players with the recruitment rooms. That's one of the big things
Exactly.
for it. And now at FIU, you also had a big hand in the control room and the audio and video over IP with an NDI network that we actually have talked about on some other shows. There's some great detailed case studies available on VizRT's website. So Jesse, I cannot miss the opportunity to have you joining us and not tell us again about the great NDI production stuff that you've done with FIU.
Thank you for bringing that up. This is another perfect example. You know, you want to centralize your control room. You don't want to drag your TriCaster from the baseball field to the soccer field when you're switching games. And that's exactly what FIU came to us with. And you know, they are, what are they? Conference USA. So Conference USA had some new requirements for their streaming and their broadcasting. So our buddies at FIU came to us and said, can you help us plan this out? They gave us the two goals. One centralized control room, right? And then get us up to standards so that Conference USA will be thrilled with our production quality. This is another perfect example of a hybrid situation, right? We ran fiber, or they ran fiber. They asked us, where do we run the fiber? So we're using point-to-point fiber links for their cameras specifically. But because we also integrated Dante and we also integrated NDI, we created some links that before were not really possible. So they have, obviously, like all of the other schools, they have a separate in-house team. Their marketing team is doing the in-house video board show, where their broadcast team is doing the streaming. But wouldn't it be great if both teams had access to each other's cameras? So even though we're bringing SDI directly over fiber from the football stadium to the control room, we're also using a pair of fiber links to extend the network from the control room in the basketball arena to the production studio, essentially the football stadium. So by putting the TriCaster that their marketing team is using for the big Jumbotron on the same network as the TriCaster in the control room for the ESPN Conference USA stream, now marketing has access to all of production's cameras and vice versa. Production has access to all of marketing's cameras. This allowed us to put a PTZ camera in a suite at the football stadium, so their on-premise announcer not only has a camera that we can cut to rather than just their audio, right? You want to do the hit at halftime where he looks at the camera and says, well, it's been a very exciting game, and et cetera, not back out to the field. Now that's on camera. It's not just audio because we got a PTZ camera on this NDI network. Additionally, their announcer now has an NDI return video feed, so he knows what's on program. I mean, just getting the referee's wireless microphone from the stadium over Dante to the control room was an immense improvement in production value. So utilizing things like NDI and Dante to get your audio-video sources on the network, allowing you to distribute them across the campus, it reinforces the push to centralize your control room and hit any sports venue in the entire campus from the one control room. I mean, you can tell this kind of stuff gets me a little bit excited. I'm passionate about making it easier for our allies, for our clients to like produce the best streams possible. You know, watching the stream, watching TV, it's got to be better than going to the game. Otherwise, you just buy a ticket and go to the game, right? If you're going to say, hey, Golden Panthers are playing, you know, conference rival this weekend, I really want to watch that stream. It cannot just be a wide shot from the 50-yard line, right? We need establishing shots. We need hero shots. We need close-ups. We need tight follows. But we need the referee's microphone in the audio. We need commentary from the play-by-play, you know, from the announcers and the color guys. It's got to be better than being there. And now more than ever before, it's affordable to do that. You don't need, in some cases, you do need a $2 million control room, as we put into ACCN. But sometimes it can be a fraction of that cost. It can be a fraction of that cost. And that's what we did at FIU.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the things, too, is it could be a fraction of that cost as an initial investment with a plan to grow and expand over time. And that's where
Sure.
Midtown Video can really help identify your immediate goals, your future goals, your short-term plan, and long-term planning on getting to some of those more creative aspects and using sports production to really facilitate all sorts of different productions, whether it's the production team, the marketing team, the broadcast team, and more. So if you have any questions about any of the projects we talked about today, if you want to learn more about how you can implement it into your production workflow, give Jesse at Midtown Video a call. Him and his team are super knowledgeable and can really help you address all of your production goals. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a super pleasure, Jim. Thank you for having me.
And stay tuned for more from SportStream.us.
Introducing the newest members of the NETGEAR M4350 series. Designed for the most demanding AV over IP installations, supporting up to thousands of endpoints. Built on the same intuitive simplicity and solid reliability, but with enterprise-class enhancements. Redundant power supplies, per-port multicolor LEDs, and high-capacity fabrics with 25 gig and 100 gig uplinks. At its core, the revolutionary NETGEAR AV OS and the intuitive Engage controller. With pre-configured profiles for all major AV protocols, setup is fast, consistent, and tailored for pro workflows. All these new models support SMPTE ST2110 with built-in Grandmaster and Boundary clock, and a new hybrid AES67 profile, offering one-click deployment for intercom systems across both new and legacy switches. Whether you're designing a high-density venue or broadcast environment, the M4350 gives you the scale, control, and simplicity you need. NETGEAR M4350 series.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining with us and sticking with us throughout these system integrator spotlights. It's really great to be able to talk to the people that are actually doing the installs and getting their perspective as they are hands-on with this. Excuse me. And we are glad to hear that some people are commenting that they are appreciating all of this information. We are happy to provide it. And along with that, we're going to provide some more information. Next up, we have an interview with Peyton Thomas from Panasonic talking about all of their camcorders and their Kairos live production system and how these are being utilized in sporting environments. So we'll play that for you now.
Hi, my name is Peyton Thomas. I'm the product manager for Kairos and Switchers. And today joining me is Jim Jensen, who's the product manager for high-end studio cameras and PTZs. And today we're going to be talking about Panasonic's end-to-end solution for sports production. In today's live events, specifically sports productions, are requiring a higher demand and higher level of a end user experience. And here at Panasonic, we're really trying to make sure we're helping complete the ecosystem for those people trying to pull off these types of productions. So that's trying to really enhance the end user experience while also creating more efficiencies like remote production and building that entire ecosystem around a full end-to-end solution. So in the screen in front of me, you'll see kind of how we have all of our cameras on the left-hand side. And these are our camera solutions that we can offer, whether that's robotics, cameras, PTZs, audio. All of those items are how we capture the video image and the audio quality needed for an enhanced sports production. In the center here, you see Kairos. This is really how we are enhancing the middle part. So Kairos is really creating and combining all of those different camera feeds and graphic systems and playback systems and really overlaying that content onto these different feeds and then delivering that content to whether it's LED walls or an end user streaming that directly from your phone. Jim's going to talk today about all of our camera ecosystems, so like our high-end studio cameras and some of our PTZs, and how really our camera solutions help enhance our broadcast solutions for sports.
Thank you, Peyton, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about our family of studio cameras, as well as some of our high-end PTZs as it pertains to sports. We know with sports, there's a lot of variety of type of sports and level of sports that are being played today. And given the different environments that they're used, really kind of helps qualify which studio camera or PTZ would be best suited for that particular application. So I would like to kind of give an overview of our studio cameras with the idea that maybe we're using these in a larger venue type of application. We know sometimes in larger venues that the feed coming from the camera will go for a live broadcast. Maybe for in-house venue, large screens, scoreboards as well, sometime for coaching analysis or even for penalty playback and analysis as well too. So a lot of applications. But when you take a look at the breadth of products that we have for our studio cameras, each of them lend themselves to a variety of applications within the sports market. And just by way of an example, just to kind of give you a quick overview of our family of studio cameras, let's just start with the 3900 that you see located on your screen here. And this particular 3900 is really our entry level and cost-effective studio camera that can be used in sports applications. It's an HD studio camera that has a paid upgradable path to 4K if that particular need arises. Now, the CCU used on this particular studio camera really supports a wide variety of workflows, which is really important for an entry-level studio camera. However, it does have some limitations, and you'll see that as we move through our studio camera lineup. And if we were to look slightly above in features and application, we go to the 3300, which is a studio camera that is really considered our mid-range and affordable 4K studio camera. Now, this particular one comes out of the box, so to say, is 4K and a little bit more flexible given the CCUs, the camera controls units that are used with this studio camera. The 3300 uses our UCU 700 and 710 CCU and gives us the choice of SD2110, NDI, and SRT, so offering a little bit more flexibility. Now, a lot of times in these larger venues and sports arenas, we're working outside, so the importance of an ND filter is really critical, and the 3300 has that as well. Now, one of the nice things about the 3300 in sports applications is we find the need for high speed, and so we can do slow motion. And the 3300 gives us the ability to do slow motion 120 frames per second in HD. And then the other studio camera that we need to discuss is the 4000. This particular studio camera is more of our higher end studio camera for a lot of different reasons. This particular one is really used very heavily in sports because it has two filter wheels on it. It has a neutral density filter as well as a color correction filter. With changing lighting environments and those type of things, you need the tools on the studio camera to adapt to these changes, and the 4000 has that particular capability. Also, the 4000 gives us the ability to use our own build-up studio kit in case you're using one of those larger box lenses for longer throws and different applications that they find themselves in. So the 4000 also gives us a little bit more refined slow motion. It allows us to do 2x, 3x, and 4x slow motion in HD, giving us a more variety and more refinement with our slow motion. And our PLV 100 is different than our other cameras in that it uses a Super 35 sensor with a PL mount. Now, this particular studio camera is used in those applications where you really want to have a cinematic look in a shallow depth of field. It just adds to the element of the storytelling in sports. If that's what you're trying to achieve, then the PLV 100 is the camera for that application. Also, the ability to have dual native ISOs on here gives us the ability to really have two bases when it comes to adjusting our levels, giving us flexibility, especially in lower light conditions. The PLV 100 is not a B4 mount like the others, as I mentioned, so special PL mount lenses would be used. But then let's move to really our new flagship studio camera. It's the AK-UCX 100. Now, this particular studio camera, we call it our flagship for a lot of different reasons. One is the Super 35 sensor has the highest resolution within our lineup, which gives us improved sharpness and has improved sensitivity in lower light conditions. In addition to high speed in HD, which is 2x, 3x, and 4x, we also have the ability to do slow motion in 4K at 2x. So if the need calls for slow motion in 4K, then the UCX 100 would be the right choice. Now, there's a couple other things about the UCX 100 that is unique, and I'm sure Peyton will be touching on this a little bit later, but we do have the ability to do 25 gig SD 2110 right out of the camera head, and it also supports redundancy. So this becomes a very strong workflow tool in an SD 2110 environment. In addition to that, we could actually use our camera fiber adapter, the CFA 100, giving us the ability to not use a CCU, but use fiber connectivity directly to this camera adapter, powering the camera and really streamlining our workflow. And just a real quick note, it was just announced right off the hot of the presses, is our new UBX 100 box camera, which is essentially our UCX 100 in box camera form. So a lot of different choices there, just to kind of summarize, given the different applications that are out there. Now, let's move a little bit to what are some of the accessories within a studio camera lineup. Time doesn't allow us to get into all the details of these accessories with the operating panel and the viewfinders and the CCUs, but it does make the point that within our studio camera lineup, you can interchange these with the different cameras, giving you the ability, if you are ever to enter another camera into your studio camera mix, a different model number, you can use the same CCU or remote panel or viewfinder, which operators absolutely love. Now, just a little bit about the CCU becomes somewhat of the heartbeat of the studio camera chain, in that our CCUs are unique in that it has an LCD screen built right into it. Now, this is really nice because I don't need a separate monitor to monitor my studio camera, as well as I can there access all my menus found on the camera head in the CCU directly from the UCU 700 and 710. You may ask yourself, well, what's the difference between the two? And really, the two CCUs are similar in functionality. It's just a matter of what options are pre-installed. The UCU 700 we really consider really kind of our base model, in that you have the ability to upgrade the UCU 700 to match the 710. You can see on the screen here that we have the ability to have SD2110 as an option, supporting JPEG XS. We also have the ability to do Dante audio, as well as streaming features such as NDI and SRT. If your workflow is such where SD2110 and Dante audio is needed immediately, you may want to go with the UCU 710 that has those particular options, the SD2110 and Dante audio, already pre-installed. The only option would be the streaming option, which would be the NDI SRT. So you just have to look at your workflow, where you are and where you want to go to choose the right CCU from Panasonic. Now, also with the UCU 700 and 710, it gives us the ability with our fiber connectivity to go the distances of 1.24 miles, which is often needed when in a large stadium venue. Also, the ability to have an HDR workflow, which is both 4K and HD simultaneously, is achieved with our CCUs. Now, just a little bit about the box camera that was announced just the other day, actually, which we're so excited about. And the press release is the link right underneath the picture that you see there. But the UBX 100 has that same sensitivity, same sharpness, same resolution as the UCX 100, only in box form. It has a variety of IOs, just like the UCX 100 with the 12G and SDI, as well as the 25 gig SD2110. Now, a big announcement that was also made with this camera that applies to the UCX 100 and the UBX 100 is the autofocus functionality. This is something that's really an industry first on a box camera such as this and a studio camera to assist operators in all applications in sports and beyond. So let's just make a quick transition to our PTZ family. Now, time doesn't allow us to go through all the PTZs that we have and all the applications they find themselves in, but it works very nicely into the workflow that Peyton had referred to. So I'm just going to choose two just real quickly. And that is one of the most popular outdoor PTZs used by major sports organizations today is the UR100. The UR100 is one of those outdoor PTZs that really check the box on all the specs that are needed for a robust and reliable PTZ to handle any of the environments. In fact, the robustness and reliability of the UR100, it's an IP65 rated for outdoor and is resistant to salt. The stabilization built into the UR100 is second to none and top of the line in our industry when it comes to PTZs. In fact, it incorporates many different technologies. It has the dynamic image stabilization, as well as the optical image stabilization and the electronic image stabilization. Often these are mounted on rafters and grids and things of that nature, and strong winds and just vibration from many other factors can really interrupt the shot. But this allows us to have that stabilization where that doesn't become an issue. And the lens on this particular PTZ answered the questions to many in this sports environment. They wanted a strong zoom. So this particular one has 24x zoom. It also has a very wide angle of view, the 74.1. So we can really encapsulate and capture all that's in our shop. The streaming capability with SRT and RTMPS is really nice for those applications, and a full auto mode that you can finally trust. And then, of course, fiber connectivity, which has been a strong demand from our customers in the sports environment. And just lastly, let me also talk about the UE160, a product that we're seeing used in sports environments that has the greatest demands. Why? Well, there's really two, or really more than two, 10 really top 10 reasons. One, it's a newly developed sensor that has really a great sensor in it that gives us some of the best sensitivity in the marketplace that we are finding in PTZs. It has a built-in optical low-pass filter to help reduce mores in most situations. You could also connect a microphone because it does have phantom power directly into the XLR input. The phase detection autofocus is an autofocus that has become relied upon with the latest technology, so you don't see the hunting that you find in other autofocus mechanisms, as well as a built-in waveform display to check on the web GUI that's built into the camera. We have built-in auto framing, which really allows itself for a more natural and smooth auto framing that can be used when framing a talent, whether that may be given a report. And the industry's first SD2110 option that supports JPEG XS right out of this particular PTZ. The cropping and zoom functionality gives a little bit of workflow creativity, allowing you to get 2 pictures out of this particular PTZ with zoom capability. And for sports applications, we listen to our customers. We have 120 frames in HD capability. And the best thing about each of these products that I'm talking about, in particular with our UBX100 new box camera, the UCX100, and the 160, is you are truly able to achieve perfect color matching. Now, I said a lot in the last couple of minutes. Just as a quick overview, we invite you to visit our website for more details. Of course, answer any questions that are in the chat to give a little bit more specifics. But let me turn it back over to Peyton so he can talk, once the image is captured, what Panasonic is capable of doing from there. Peyton?
Perfect. Thank you, Jim. Jim's right. All the cameras that he talked about, the UCX100, the UE160, and the UR100, all those cameras can be ingested directly inside of Keros, and that core is able to process all of those images. And this core here is Keros, and this is the brain of the system. What's unique about Keros is the ability to do GPU processing different than FPGA processing from traditional switchers. So Keros is unique in the sense that that GPU processing is giving you that flexibility and the creativity that you need to really be able to enhance that sports production. One of the unique features with that GPU processing is the ability to do layer-based operations. So typically you have a fixed limit of MEs or keyers on a traditional switcher, but that's not the case with Keros. Keros is all layer-based, so I can continue to add keyers on top of keyers, layers on top of layers, as many MEs in my system. The moment that one of those MEs leaves the system is when that GPU starts being utilized. So I really don't have to think through my show anymore of, how many keyers do I have per ME. I can just continue to build in this Photoshop or style-based workflow. So it's very much a left to right workflow, selecting a layer and being able to adjust a parameter very, very quickly. One of the unique things in a sports environment is I might have, feeds coming in remotely. So whether that's SRT, maybe it's a local SDI, or even 2110. So maybe I'm having some 2110 feeds. I'm looking at upgrading my venue to 2110, or already have existing 2110 in my facility. Keros can actually ingest all of that and also output it on a unique basis. So it's format resolution independent. So it doesn't really matter what resolution or frame rate I'm sending to Keros, it can take it in. So that means no more converters, no more up-down cross. Keros takes care of it for you. In addition to that, I can also work in SDR or HDR workflows directly from the interface. So that's on a per output basis too. So being able to take in all those different feeds. So let's say a UE160 remotely is coming in, via SRT, while I have my UCX100 coming in 2110. So all of that can come in to Keros and be mixed and matched quickly and effectively, all within a single frame of latency. inside of Keros, you know, a lot of people think of Keros as maybe just a 2110 switcher, but that GPU processing gives us some unique things to be able to do in addition to just being able to switch a broadcast feed. And one of those features is being able to manage screen content, or our canvas feature set. So this might be unique in a sports application. If you have LED boards that you're trying to drive, you know, you might not need that LED processor in line, which also saves on latency. In addition to that, you might want to be sending to like Instagram Live in a 9:16. Sports productions are trying to, you know, elevate their experience, whether that's the in-venue experience or for the viewership at home. Keros could send a 9:16 directly out of it, you know, via RTMP or SRT, if it's a stream, or even just directly out SDI, or even IPMX coming soon. So that's one of the unique things about Keros, is kind of bringing that screen management functionality inside of a single box or a single interface as well. And of course, that control can be split up not just by one operator, but of course across multiple operators with multiple control panels as well. Because Keros is so flexible with its GPU, we have a lot of, you know, major broadcasts that are utilizing Keros in a more effective and a more efficient way. And when traditionally you might have had to have a, let's say maybe 3 switchers per venue, Keros can actually potentially manage all 3 different venues because of this flexibility with no fixed limit of MEs or keyers. So one operator could be at a baseball stadium, one operator could be at a tennis stadium, one operator could be at a soccer stadium, all connected back to one core. We have user management, so being able to, you know, make sure nobody steps on one another, but also having their own dedicated, you know, control interface to be able to talk to Keros and be able to, you know, switch their own feeds and their own show, but also being able to not have that fixed limit of MEs or keyers, and just being able to manage that GPU resource to be able to drive different content. And, you know, I'm utilizing this in a sports content, you know, different venues of sports, but, you know, let's say it is still sports and you have, you know, a baseball stadium, but, you know, there might be some sort of in-house show going on at the same time. You know, you want to also manage a green screen studio. Well, traditionally, maybe I would have had to have purchased an additional switcher to just manage that. I might not have to do that. I could do all of it from a single core, from a single interface that everybody's used to using. A lot of people are used to kind of the remote production of Keros, or kind of like the RIM model, and Keros can kind of operate in 2 different ways. Keros could be on-prem, on location, and ingest those camera feeds and send back SRT feeds of multi-views, and then just have the control panel or Keros creator be remote. A lot of operators do that. GlobeStream is a perfect example of this. They actually have their core in the facility, and they're actually streaming back all of the Panasonic PTZs and cameras via SRT directly inside of Keros without the need of additional, you know, SRT encoders to be able to bring those feeds in. Our cameras support native SRT, and they can feed it directly into Keros. And that's kind of what this diagram is showing here. And then they're able to cut their show remotely. They even have the ability to bring in graphics remotely, or even being able to have different announcers come in remotely. And they're able to mix and match all of those directly from Keros. One of the unique things about our panel is the PTZ control. And nothing kind of really replaces our RP150. Perfect for operators, gets that fine, control and smoothness. But in a quick moment of needing to grab a camera inside of your lineup and be able to, reframe that camera, the TD could do that directly from the Keros interface. And they could grab the joystick, be able to pan, tilt, zoom. Even inside of Keros Creator, I could adjust the zoom, the PTZ presets, or even the focus directly from the control interface. But these are directly on the panel. We have a feature also called Smart Delegation. So actually, if I preview one of our PTZ cameras, that PTZ preset that you might have saved on your RP150 or even inside of Keros, I could actually recall that preset directly from the control interface and quickly move on the fly. So it's kind of perfect for a, maybe a one-man band trying to do maybe a higher end, sports production. Kairos could actually make your life a lot simpler and easier instead of having to, go over and run, slide your chair over, grab the RP 150. I could potentially just punch some presets directly from the Kairos interface as well. One unique thing in sports is, especially in remote production, is always having HTML5 graphics. The HTML5 graphics gives the ability to have remote graphics operators for those that might not know, but this is a really great workflow. Kairos can natively ingest HTML5 directly into our graphics engine, and even be able to recall different APIs, API recalls to be able to push that content directly from the Kairos interface. Another great integration we have is with ROS expression. So for those people in the sports world that love using ROS expression, we actually have ROS talk directly inside of Kairos. So any of those panel stripes could actually have presets that recall those graphics and really animate those in. So I think in summary, the big thing about Panasonic is really trying to offer a cohesive ecosystem and integration, not from just PTZs, studio cameras, robotics, but also with our Kairos platform and being able to deliver that content directly to the end user. So thank you everyone for joining today's sports stream. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out on the website, contact a sales rep near you, and let us help you enhance your sports production experience. Thanks for joining.
It's always great to hear from Peyton at Panasonic talking about their cameras and the Kairos Core and all of that great stuff. Next up is a segment with NETGEAR, and Laurent is going to be talking about some how NETGEAR switches really cover all bases when it comes to AV over IP, not just NDI, but also SMPTE and Dante and Zixi, and all of the AV over IP protocols are supported by NETGEAR's Pro AV switches. And they're also going to talk a little bit about the Olympics, which is always cool to talk about. So we'll play that interview for you now.
Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar. How's it going? Glad you could make it. I'm here with my good friend and coworker, Mr. Laurent Massia, our senior director of our managed switches and heads up the Pro AV design team. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, thank you, John. Very well. And thank you for having me, as usual, doing these things with you. It's always a pleasure.
Some of the standards that we've supported for a long time, actually, there's a range of these, and they do different things. We'll talk about some of these coming up and how they compare and complement each other in some cases and contrast, and they can all be done, of course, through a NETGEAR switch. So as we kind of come into here, Laurent, this is where I need your help, really.
Yeah, sure. So that looks like a complicated table, right? Because before the transition to IP, you got many cables, analog, digital. So look at that: video, audio, the time synchronization, the control, the power, compression, video quality. So all that was most of the time was requiring a whole lot many of cables. So ST2110, this is the protocol from the SMPTE, is simplifying that, because not only on one link you can carry the video, but on the same link you carry the audio, the PTP, the time protocol, the PTP, and also all the control. And if you happen to have a PWE powered gateway, for instance, or encoder or decoder, then you can also get the power out of the same link, provided it's copper. John, we did not find a way to carry PWE on fiber as of yet. So the compression, the video quality, all that is based on the software, and we'll see that the bandwidth, is different. So the SMT usually this is lossless and not compressed. But see now on the right hand side, you have new entrants, right? You have NDI, you have IPMX, Dante AV, SRT, and Zixi that was most of the time was used for sending out WAN transfers. So let me say a few words because we all know NDI, NETGEAR AV participated to the success of the NDI many years ago with the first certified profiles that could solve the problem with NDI and Dante in the same VLAN, the same broadcast domain. But NDI is a very good technology because it's a plug and play and it's simpler, you can say, for maybe smaller broadcast studios. What's interesting here is that IPMX, there's a lot of excitement about IPMX at all the shows. We are going to be at the NAB a couple weeks from now. You'll see that live on the NETGEAR website booth. So IPMX is probably a transition in between the SMT ST2110 world and the other worlds. Why? Because IPMX lets you choose your compression. You have several codecs you can work with, so you can go from uncompressed to lightly compressed to a whole lot of compression, usually with very good codecs. But the philosophy remains the same. As for ST2110, you have one cable. The video, the audio, and the time synchronization is all on the same cable, including the control. So back to the IPMX, what I want to tell you, John, is that all our video profiles are actually certified by now by the AIMS for IPMX. And IPMX can reside on a network that is not PTP aware. So the time synchronization can be actually handled by the source and the destination endpoints directly, or IPMX can be happy enough in a PTP-aware network, kind of a PTP ST2110 network. And this is for this reason that there's some excitement, because IPMX can be a good transition in between the two worlds. And IPMX will probably open the way to some gateways mixing and matching NDI, Dante AV, and SRT and Zixi. All right, so this is all I can tell you because it looks complicated, but at the end of the day, what we're going to see now is that all that is quite plug and play when we are using the right profiles on the NETGEAR AV line.
So let's talk about our support for all these different standards. This is cool because, as Laurent mentioned, we support all this stuff. So whether it's IPMX, SRT, or Zixi, all of our video profiles support that. AES67, we have a profile for that. Dante, for Dante Audio and Dante Video as well, have their own profiles. And NDI, of course, we've done for a while as well. And separate profiles that are certified for all this.
We should add NDI 6, actually. Sorry, I forgot. We went live with NDI 6 at ISC in Barcelona a few weeks ago.
So we have profiles specifically for that. Laurent will show you this today. And even since they came out, we've done a lot, and Laurent's updated that firmware for these profiles to make sure it works in a range of situations. So that's cool.
Okay, so we have a mobile rack, and as you can see, I'm using the NETGEAR Engage. So a NETGEAR Engage is an application that you can get, for free out of the NETGEAR website, netgear.com/engage. I'm using the release version. I'm not this time using a QA or future roadmap version. This is what you can get today. If you test it today, just download it, netgear.com/engage 2037. And Engage lets you create your site under the controller management. So I'm calling this mobile rack the EMEA fly case, and we have the exact same rack on its way to Las Vegas this week as we speak for the NAB show. So when you have a site, you can then manipulate that site using the Dropbox. So your own Engage that can reside on a Windows PC, that can reside on a Mac laptop, Mac OS laptop, and soon, we'll see soon, maybe on a box later this year, you can actually then switch from one side to the other. How does it work? Well, from the beginning, you will just unpack the NETGEAR AV switches, whatever M series, and you will discover them. How? Well, using the network setup, you can use engage on the PC with a DHCP address or a static IP address. As you know, the switches, when they come out of the factory, the NETGEAR AV switches, they come with DHCP clients on their VLAN 1 interface or on their out-of-band OOB interface. So a great quick way is to actually temporarily use your Engage as a DHCP server so you can easily discover all the switches and assign other IP addresses later. But in my case, I am using a dynamic NIC. All right. So from if the computer that you are using can access those switches, you just discover them all and onboard them all. So on this network, I have like 10 switchers, and I do have a router and 2 access points. All right, the router is here. So let's get back to topology and configure this network a very certain way. And John, what I wanted to do today is to show you how the NETGEAR AV team would have done the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games last summer. Remember, by the Seine River in Paris? So the opening ceremony was, for the audio, that was an ST2110 installation with Riedel, Bolero, and artists. But everything I'm going to tell you right now would also apply the very same way to Harman, RTS Intercom, to Clearcom, to Gringo, all our great AES67, ST2110 intercom partners. So at the opening ceremony, we couldn't play because, of course, the RFP and all that happened many years ago, and NETGEAR didn't have ST2110 by then. But I'm going to show you the exact same architecture that they used with a lot more cost and a lot more configuration. So what we want to do on this network, we have a core switch, which is a SMPTE ST2110 version called the 16V 4C, the 4350 VSM 4320C. I'm using it as a core switch, and I am deploying those edge switches, in a 2-tier design. And yes, I do have a little extension, a 3rd tier with a 10 gig 12x 12F switch there, and a little 4250 switch right there. And then I have 2 access points. What you want to do with me, John, today is that we want to deploy in one click a hybrid SMPTE ST2110 profile across the entire network. And what we want to do is that we want to act as a boundary clock on that core switch. And we want to have all these other switches doing transparent clock for the audio AES67 intercom. Okay, so let's go to the side settings. And for this, I'm not even going to create a VLAN, John. Usually I go crazy with VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 and VLAN 30, and we want to do the colors and all that. But here, because we have 600 endpoints with hundreds of antennas, hundreds of bell packs, hundreds of headsets, we want to allocate this entire network for ST2110 in the AES67 audio PTP profile. And to be very transparent with you, during the opening ceremony in Paris, it was not NETGEAR AV, that was other brands. It was a mixed configuration with brand A and brand B. I don't have to disclose that, but I can tell you that was a week long of configuration, and you got 2 networks, okay? 2 identical networks like that, so that all the endpoints were connecting to the blue and connecting to the red network for redundancy, ST2022-7. But from a network standpoint, from a configuration standpoint, those 2 networks were identical, okay, with different grandmaster clocks. So we are not going to create a VLAN. We are using the VLAN 1. The default, usually we do video, the standard video over IP. And we are going to edit this VLAN1 together. And we are going to review the list of profiles. We have a lot of profiles. One of them is the audio video SMPTE profile that we can use with ST2059-2 for the video or AES67 for audio. But what I'm very happy to present, and this is live, this will be live in 2 weeks from now at NAB. Look at that. We have a hybrid SMPTE AES67 core and audio AES67 Edge. So maybe I need the help from the marketing team for a better name, but let me show you what it is. Okay, so we are.
That says what it does. That's the best kind of name because it says what it does right away, and people know right away. No help from me.
So we are selecting this profile. This is the VLAN1, all right? And of course, we want to do TC, we want to do PTP-v2, BC, and Grandmaster, boundary clock and Grandmaster. This is all enabled. I don't have to touch anything here. Next, yes, let me talk a little bit about Wi-Fi, because you saw it. I have 2 access points. So that's my VLAN1. I am saying, yes, I do Wi-Fi on that VLAN1. I'm using a global site SSID, which is the NETGEAR EMEA Fly Case 2025. And the very simple implementation that we have done here is that you can create groups, John. So for instance, all the devices that will connect with this password, they will be placed in that global group, okay? But you can create several groups so that you can isolate them from the other groups. If you want to have a specific kind of access with some groups that you don't want to have any interference with other groups, okay? So this is called MPSK. This is very simplistic, but as I told you, this is pure convenience. So if during the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games and I have a few Wi-Fi stations, I'm just doing that and boom, I have my Wi-Fi running. So
that's the pre-shared key, MPSK, for people to look up. Yep.
Multiple pre-shared keys.
Yep.
When we edit the VLAN1, we have our topology, okay, and then we have all the ports. They already belong to the VLAN1, right? So I'm not going to touch anything, and we are going to click apply. So during that moment, a week long of fastidious configuration for boundary clock and transparent clock just happened on the network.
It's amazing.
Do you want to see it? Because I think you want to see it.
Well, everybody wants to verify that, and that's the thing we found out, I think, from this AVUI really, and all the profiles, is that people see, okay, it's cool. They've seen me do short videos on it. You doing great demos, but they want to see the results. They want to verify it, right? Trust but verify.
Absolutely. So really quick, under the site settings, I did not show you how the network from a IP, how the network is configured. You know, I'm a simple guy, you know that. So I like when my switches have a static fixed IP interface on their VLAN1 management VLAN interface. This way, nothing bad can happen, you know. And my main switch is 10.10.1.1, and then I have the .254 on the router, and then all the other switches have incremental IP addresses, okay? And for the sake of this exercise, I'm showing the OOB. I'm not managing this network using OOB out of band, so I assign the same static address, 192.168.0.239 to all switches, so that this way, if I have to, I can just come to a switch, connect to the OOB, and access it locally. All right, so going back to the topology, let me show you. The first thing we want to verify is the core switch. Are we doing boundary clock on that core switch? Yes or no? And who is the grandmaster? And then we'll inspect that 4350 gigabit switch, the 48G for XF. So in order to verify, we click on that model. From the topology, we are going to click configure. We are landing on the EV user interface that you have, John, right out of the box without engage, out of the box using the switch IP interface. We are going to the network profiles, and without too much surprise, too much suspense, we should see that the VLAN1 is using the audio video SMPTE. On this very switch, I selected the hybrid profile site-wide, but this very switch is doing the SMPTE profile. And let me verify that with you. Let's review the PTP v2 and see The PTP V2 boundary clock process is running. It's in the true state. We are using the AES67. That's what we want for intercom, right? The AES67 profile in the two-step mode. I'm not doing any complicated layer 3. I'm using the clock at the layer 2. And this switch became the master. Why? Because despite that in my BMCA, I have the default local clock priority 1 and 2 set to 128, that's our default. Nobody could beat it on my network because I do not have a dedicated Meinberg or Tektronix clock on this network, okay? So this switch didn't find any better. So this switch is acting as a master, grandmaster, all right?
We have a Pro AV design team Laurent's had up for years to handle your switch choices, your network design, help you get up and running so you won't need us next time perhaps. So check them out. It's easy. There's an email address or you can go right to the website in a form. We have a huge training academy if you didn't know, and maybe you're on the list and you got an email. We just moved to a different platform, which is great. Our global training manager, Gus Marcondes, has been hard at work with some new courses. We have level 1, we have level 2, NETGEAR switch certification now.
Thank you all for your support. And John, thank you for hosting us.
Great information as always. And we appreciate your support. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for watching again. It's always great to hear from Laurent. He's a good friend of the channel, and we use a NETGEAR switch in our studio here, so great service. Next up is going to be LiveU talking about their cellular bonded encoders and their cloud switching platform. I know we're running a little bit late here today, so we're just going to get right into it. So here's LiveU.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Philip Broadus. I'm the Senior Director of Sales for LiveU Sports. I have Ben Ratner with me from our Global Solutions team. LiveU for years has been known as one of the leaders when it comes to transmission using our LRT and bonded cellular technologies. But the key is LiveU is more than just that. We are a full-fledged partner when it comes to your end-to-end solution. And one of the biggest things that we have developed over the past few years is our ability to be a full-scale production organization, giving you solutions that can help both with that transmission, but then also all the way to your distribution. So Ben today is going to give you a full overview of our LiveU Studio solution and how it can be a perfect fit for whatever it is you're doing on the sports side of things.
So LiveU Studio is a full control room in the cloud. This means that you could run it from anywhere. You could have as many people in that control room as you need. And because it's all in the cloud, you can have as many instances as you need. So let's say you're, for example, a college or a university that has to broadcast every single sporting event, many of them happening at the same time. Just spin up another control room and you're ready to go. You don't need any extra infrastructure. So let's go ahead and take a look at the interface here. It's very, very simple to use. I've had everyone from middle school students to senior citizens using this. And basically, like a regular control room, you've got preview and program. So I'm just going to throw a shot here into preview, and I'm going to hot punch a shot here into program. These are all coming directly from LiveU units. You'll notice that they're actually perfectly synced up and in real time. So when you're using LiveU, you're not going to have a situation where you see a wide shot swinging and then a close-up of that swing happening again. You're going to see it all perfectly in real time. So we are using footage from everyone's favorite Savannah Bananas here. And we've got 4 synced up cameras from them, and that's what we're going to use for this example. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is how we can do scoreboard using data from a third-party source using third-party graphics. So for this example, I'm going to show you using software called Scoreboard OCR, as well as software called Singular. The Scoreboard OCR is going to be how we show the data feed. And this particular software, as you can see here, it actually takes a video camera or a video stream of a scoreboard, and then it converts that to data. That data can then go to any third-party graphic source that can take scoreboard data. This example, again, I'm going to be using Singular, but there's many other providers out there. So whatever you want to use, we can pull them in. Looking at the software here, you can see here's right now just a sample of video of a scoreboard. Here you can see the data. You can see the time changing, and then you can see the score changing. So if I look right here, you can see an example of how I brought the overlay together with the score data, and you can see that they're perfectly synced up. So when the time changes on the scoreboard, the time changes on your lower third. Once again, you can use any source of scoreboard data. You could use something like Scoreboard OCR. You can use something from Daktronic. You can use anything. And then any possible third-party graphics provider that can take data, we can take that as well. So let's just take a look at that right here in LiveU Studio. I'm going to add another layer here. It's just an HTML5 graphics overlay. And you can see we've got the scoreboard right on top of the feed. So design this however you want, overlay it with LiveU Studio, super easy to use. If you want to have a scoreboard that's not exactly a fully dynamic scoreboard using data, we've got options for you too. So I'm going to bring this score bug into preview here. And all we're going to do is we're going to change the team name. So I've got the bananas, the monkeys. If you wanted, you could include a logo. And all you need to do to change the score is just add a point. And if we look right here, that score changed. So this is actually built into LiveU Studio. You don't need any third-party software. But again, if you're looking to do something more advanced with scoreboard data, you could use one of our many other integrations for that. Another thing I'm going to show you for sports is instant replay. This is one of our most requested features, so I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to open up this separate window so you can have a completely separate replay operator operate it. And it's very simple. All you do is you scroll back to the play that you want to get. So I'm going to find a play that I want here. It's probably just going to be a simple pitch. I'm going to just find a play because the Savannah Bananas have decided to do something crazy as usual. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set an in point, and I'm going to set an out point. What you don't even actually need to set those, you can just start playing from right there, but I want to show you how you can create a clip. So now this clip that we've created can be used at any point in the game. Maybe you want to go back to that during the halftime show or the post-game show, or maybe just in the next inning or the next play. So now I have this clip available. So when I go back to LiveU Studio, you can see that I've got that replay paused right at this point. And as soon as I transition that into program, and I'll just do it with a wipe so it's very visible, it's going to start playing from that exact point. So now we can see that player over at second base. And just to show you that same thing from another angle, I'm going to wipe that in from the other angle. And this is from that exact same point that we were just looking at. So really, really easy to do really easy to do replay. Build as many clips as you want, have another person running it, and just integrate that directly with your production. With LiveU Studio, we build all of the cloud infrastructure right into it, so you don't need to worry about any extra players, any extra bandwidth. It all just works for you. If you like using hardware, we have a brand new integration with the Shuttle Pro controller, so you can use this to jog and shuttle, set your ins and out points. So this is a really nice way to have a nice tactile surface for your instant replay. In addition, we can also work with Stream Deck, so you can use pretty much any kind of physical hardware control surface you want to get the nice tactile surface for control, or you could just use the mouse and keyboard on your computer. All right, now I'm going to show you our remote guest feature. This is really, really popular in the sports world for commentary, remote play-by-play. So let me show you how that works. So I've got my, my input here for the remote guests. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually send a text to myself right now. And that's going to send me a link to this. So now I'm going to go ahead and open that link up because I already got a text for that. I'm going to show you actually on a web browser right now, but again, this can work from a phone. So I'm going to go ahead and start and join this broadcast. All right, so what you can see here is what your remote guest is going to see in preview. So they basically can see whatever you want them to see. It could be program. If you want, they could have an isolated wide shot. So maybe if you have a lot of stuff going on in program, maybe commercial breaks, other graphics that they might that might cut them away from the action, you could give them just a complete ISO shot off to the side so they could continue their commentary. In fact, we have fully granular control over what they see. So I'm going to bring in even another template here. Sometimes people will put a live producer in one of these boxes. And in this example, I'm just going to give another camera angle so they could have more information on the game. So I'm just going to hit apply new changes. And right there, you can see now we've got both of our LiveU feeds as well as our main program feed. This is a really, really great way to do remote commentary, remote talk show guests, anything of the sort. And now how do you bring them into the production? Very simple. You just either bring them into preview or program. This is what I would say when I'm in both preview and program, that's a little too much of me. So what we're actually going to do, I'm going to create a template. I want to see me just on the side of the page, but still have a nice big box showing the game. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a template. And I'm actually just going to create a brand new one right now. So I'm going to hit the plus sign here. Super easy. A lot of other people that make this kind of product don't have an easy way to make these backgrounds. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hit create. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a second input. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to say input 2 is going to be my face. I'm going to make that smaller and off to the side. And now I'm going to move this main shot just a little bit over. And I'm going to call this double box big little. And I'm going to hit save. And now right away in LiveU Studio, we've got our double box big little. I'm going to add that as a source. All right, so now you can see my totally beautiful face there in the small box. And you've still got the game action going on off to the right. So we could transition that right into program. And now you can have any sort of double box, triple box. You can go up to like 9 box if you want. Please don't use 9 box, but if you wanted to, we'll absolutely accommodate it. So there's your templates, and you can have more of those templates than you could possibly imagine. A lot of you might be using sources other than LiveU. Of course, LiveU is the best way to bring your content into the production. You could use one of our physical units. So right here, I've got my LiveU 300. We also have our LiveU 800, which is this backpack right here. Nice thing about the LiveU 800 is you have an option to have 4 inputs going into this. So if you want to have, let's say, 4 cameras going into one backpack, that's all you need. But we see a lot of people using multiple LiveU 300s so they could have their cameras all over the field very easily. Again, all of those cameras are going to perfectly sync up in time. But if you're not using a LiveU source, we have a lot of other options for you. So if you look here where you can add a live source, we could basically take in anything that has 3 or 4 letters. So RTMP, SRT, RTSP, basically all those formats, any of the encoders you have. So we could even use things like Teradek. If you're using a TriCaster, vMix, OBS, we could bring in all of those feeds as well. We can also bring in local signals. So if you have a local video device, a local webcam, local audio, super easy to just bring that in. And of course, we could do screen capturing as well. From a distribution standpoint, we have a lot of ways you can output your footage. So for here, I'm going to show you, we're just going to add a publishing point. You've got access to all of your major social networks through API integrations. You also have outputs through RTMP and SRT. So pretty much you can get anywhere you need to get. We also have the ability to go directly out to an LRT source. This would be your LiveU physical or cloud server. So if you want to go out as an SDI output, maybe to your channel or to some other recording process, we can absolutely accommodate that as well. I hate to say that we limit you to only 30 outputs. If that's an issue for you, you're just going to have to use someone else. I've never seen anyone use more than 30 we offer, so that should be just fine. And each of these outputs can actually be a different quality. So you could change the bit rate, audio bit rate, keyframe, all that fun stuff. And also, let's say you want to go vertical. We offer all sorts of different aspect ratios, including 9:16. And to make your life easy, we offer you multiple different options to how you're going to frame that. So you can either crop it down the center, you can letterbox it, so it's just going to squeeze that down to the middle, or you can stretch it to fill the entire screen. I like to go with the letterbox. Really, really easy way to use your feed for Instagram, TikTok, software like that. Something I really love about LiveU also is our hotkeys. This is really important if you want to use hardware control, but also if you want to do a bunch of things at once with just a single keystroke. So right now, I'm going to create a keystroke here that's going to let me go to my quad box here. So I'm going to choose my quad box, and then I'm going to add my scoreboard at the same time. So now when I'm going to assign this to the hotkey H. So when I go back to my control room here, when I hit the letter H, you're going to see that happen all in one click. 3, 2, 1, H. And there's that exact shot that I mentioned, and you're ready to transition that right into program. We have all sorts of transitions. Of course, you can also add animated transitions, so you can get that full broadcast quality right through here. All right, so here, this is our multi-views. So you actually have a choice of many multi-views. You could change the template just like you could for your remote guests. So I'm going to choose another template here, maybe this one right here. And I'm going to choose my different sources that go to it. So I'll put that shot there, this shot here. And this is a really easy thing that you could send out to your producers, to your reporters, your anchors, whoever needs to see this. You could even build yourself out a nice little control room with multiple multi-views. Just send this out, super easy for people to watch your production where they can't actually have any adverse effect. So they're not getting into that control room, they're just seeing this. And as far as media players go, it's really easy to play video back. So I'm just gonna add a media player right here. And I've got a couple uploaded footage here. So I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna drag it right into this player. This is a clip from before. I'm gonna load it into preview. That's good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bring that into program. This is a clip playing right now. You could create playlists if you need to have multiple things going in a row. You could very easily swap out these clips. So you have a lot of functionality. So you can, have a clip player that does your intros, your outros, and maybe a playlist for your commercial breaks. So you have lots of control what you do with your media players. So that's pretty much it for my demo of LiveU Studio. It's a really great way to integrate LiveU and any other source into a cloud control room. Couple things that you should stay tuned for in the very near future. You're going to get to hear it first here. We've got some new hardware options coming in the future. So if you want to, let's say, mix audio on a physical surface or have another kind of physical switcher, stay tuned for that. Our brand new audio mixer also has a bunch of new options. It lets you take multi-channel audio from one of your sources and assign those to different faders. So you could, let's say, have all of your audio going into one camera and then completely mix that in LiveU Studio. Also, you're going to have the ability to have 4 stereo output pairs. So if you want to have multi-track audio, maybe you want different languages, maybe you want, you want to have a different kind of commentator for one of your productions. You can do that really easily through LiveU Studio very, very soon. So Philip, that's all I've got for LiveU Studio. Anything else before we go?
Well, Ben, thanks for that. It was great to see all of it. Hopefully this was very beneficial for everyone. The one key I want to point out, we want you to get your hands on this. So if you're interested in learning more, get with your representative that you're working with. We'll get you a trial of it, let you really try it out hands-on. Ben and the rest of our team here at LiveU is happy to help you with any type of questions you have. But the biggest key is we want you to really fill this out. Get your hands on it, try it out, and then we know it's going to be a great solution for you. So Ben, thank you again for your time, and thank you everyone for tuning in and spending today with us.
Thank you to everyone that has been with us both yesterday and today. I saw somebody comment just before I came back on live that you are really interested in getting a LiveU setup. Absolutely, feel free to reach out to us at 800-323-2325, and we can get you in contact with one of the system integrators that we were talking with earlier today. We have some great stuff coming up tomorrow as well. A couple more system integrators. LiveU was just talking about the Savannah Bananas. We talk about them with Visua, with Matt Baker tomorrow. We have another system integrator, NPI. And then I actually did an interview with Cameron from Bird Dog talking about their Maki Live studio. We had Shane from Telestream demo off a demo derby in Wirecast. And then I did another interview with David Doku from Canon talking about their camcorders working in sporting environments. So definitely stay tuned for tomorrow. 3 p.m. Eastern will be our start time, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.